Hello, everybody. Welcome to Game Changers. Game Changers is one of my absolute favorite programs that we have at the Conductor. It is where we talk with someone who has changed the game in some capacity. It could be in business, in education, in nonprofit. Today, certainly, art, vision, economic development. I am so thrilled and pleased to introduce to you guys Dr. Yang Luo-Branch. Welcome.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you for having me here.
And so I have a long list here of your background, your history, a little bit about your journey, but I'm just going to hit the high notes and then I'll let you sort of fill in the rest. How does that sound as I introduce you?
That sounds great.
All right. So Dr. Luo-Branch is a senior data visualization analyst at Tyson. Previously, she was the digital marketing and GIS manager at AEDC. She's also the owner and architectural illustrator at Y Illustrations, the founder and president of the Arkansas Association of Asian Businesses, member of the board of advisors for the George H.W. Bush Foundation for U.S.-China Relations. Dr. Luo-Branch has her PhD in land use planning from Texas Tech, a master's in sociology from Texas Tech as well, and a BA in agriculture from the University of Science and Technology. So that's a mouthful. How do you have time for all of that?
um, well, I think, so there's several things I do. Like you said, my full-time job with Tyson as an IT professional and a part-time artist, and also operating a nonprofit organization that I have founded, and a mother of a 2-year-old and a wife of someone that didn't born in the same country as myself. So how do I do all of that? I don't know. I take it day by day, hour by hour. So I'm
Yes,
not saying that in a sense that it's miserable. It's definitely a joy. So it takes a lot of planning on how to use my time wisely. So I kind of advise my fellow um, and community who's earlier in their career. I tell them, especially for younger mothers, not to discount yourself out of your many potentials you may have. You just put them on your calendar. Maybe somehow, if you really want to do them, you can find the time.
absolutely. And so thinking of young professionals, you as a young professional, you studied architecture
Mm-hmm.
and then you studied sociology, so it's social science, and then you
Mm-hmm.
went to land use,
Mm-hmm.
and then you tapped into your creativity as an artist, and now you're in IT. So you're
Mm-hmm.
really exercising both sides of your brain. Can you sort of explain to us your journey and how you started as a young professional to where you
Mm-hmm.
are now?
Yes, yes. Well, that's a very accurate summary. It's very intentional that I've been exercising both sides of my mind. So I I do not adopt that you're either or kind of track. So at least I don't, give in to that kind of notion. So just to tell you, I faced the same kind of challenge back when I was in China, when high schools and or middle schools teachers started telling you, hey, girls are not good in math. And so I get that it's kind of similar in the U.S. So female have more challenge in the STEM fields. So and yeah, so I just didn't give in to that. So in terms of the path, since I was trained as an architect, that's when I was trained with artistic drawing skills, hand drawing skills, and then I went on and did urban planning in my PhD. So it's like going from designing one building, one building to the mass land use, like how to develop the downtown area, how to design a town center, how to design community center. So through that learning and education, I realized, hey, I may love things more than just designing. I love people at the end of the day. So if I was to design for someone, I love my client. I love this community I'm doing the city planning for. So that's how I ended up pursuing a degree in sociology, because I want to learn more about people. I want to learn the psychology, sociology aspect of our community. So, and then I went into IT because I felt um, doing art and social science, not saying social science is not quantitative, just theory things may not be enough. I want to look at data. I want to, um, you know, looking at facts. And I, at the time, I knew that, data is the trend, because say 5 years earlier, I'm much more um, driven by what's hot, what's say everybody is saying AI is hot, this and that is hot. So I was one of those. Hey, I wanted to be in a hot field. So I heard data is something that's hot. That was, cool to be in. So yeah, just looking at land use data, like in a mapping sense. That's how I got into data. So one thing leads to another. Doing data visualization is really my dream job, which is using my artistic side and the analytic side. So interpreting data in a more relatable, consumable way, and I'm also doing dashboard design and app designs, so like cell phone apps and all of that. So I'm very lucky to be in this world, to be using both sides of my mind, my brain. But I have to say, the thing got me into data is because I wanted to be in something cool, something hot. But 5 years later, which is today, I just really started to embrace myself as a human being. 5 years ago, maybe I was ashamed to be an artist, because there was that, saying starving artist. I felt there was something not to be celebrated by, just doing art and not being taken seriously in the business world. So, but today I'm totally at a different position. I love just everything, every skill I can bring to the world, and engage with people, back to that love for community, love for people. I feel no matter it's data visualization, data democratization, or using art, I feel those are just ways to engage with people. And through this nonprofit organization, those are just things you do. And there are many other things people can do. And I believe people are, engaging with the community in all different ways.
I think that that's really interesting that 5 years ago, you may have felt ashamed to be an artist.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Would you mind to please share some of your art with our audience here? Because I'm going to ask you some questions about your.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, yeah, these are some of my arts. Art pieces, drawings. These are all hand drawn. And like I said, 5 years ago, I was ashamed to be called a local artist. One is I was a local. I'm from China. How local I am. So that's one thing I didn't want to be called local. Secondly, artist was like not taken seriously. Can you see the website I'm showing? Yeah.
Yes.
And then it means that you can't make a living. So now I'm just so thrilled that I'm called a local artist. I draw Arkansas things, and Arkansas people love my drawing of the state, all the beautiful things. I just really come around to love our surroundings. So This is a piece that's, telling the story of Northwest Arkansas and downtown Little Rock and North Little Rock. Yeah, so thanks for asking me to share.
Well, I had mentioned briefly before we had the audience come and join us that I've been a little bit of a social media stalker of yours for the last couple of years because I think your vision and your eye and your talent is incredible, amazing. And so, can you sort of explain to us that process of shame to pride and what helped you really embrace your talent and share it with the world?
I think the part I just shared is just one part of my journey of breaking through and growth, self growth. Another big part I was kind of ashamed of was because I was and I still am an introvert. So I feel this society kind of put introvert in a category that is not very favorable in terms of promotion and then making big impact. So that's another thing I had to work through. So for me, I can see myself in the past 5 6 years. I've done a lot of negotiation with myself in terms of art, in terms of why am I in IT, why am I, what's the value of being an introvert? And I've, read all the books about introversion, and then I actually did a TEDx talk, not about introversion, but the very reason I got on TEDx talk was I wanted to challenge myself to give a public speaking. So I recommended myself, nominated myself to the TEDx organizer. I signed it up as a challenge for myself to give my very first public speaking, speech. So I after that I signed up with a speech, coach, and then just went from there. I just got on a journey of really reflecting what I can bring to the world and what my values are, and really feel if I can find a voice, a channel, or multiple channels for myself, I can help my fellow young professionals to find theirs.
What are some of those values that you have that you would like to share with other professionals?
hmm I think what are some of the values? I feel I think being original is something I always strive for. I really I feel me coming up something creative, no matter it's art or no matter it's my voice, my TEDx talk, whatever, it can bring a lot to the value to the world. I feel a lot of young professionals may feel intimidated, or it's not one of their value to come up with something original. So I feel that's something actually can set me free um, on my path, just on my pursuit. I when I create art, I may find inspirations, but it's a way of setting myself free to express. And when I mm, yeah, when I do the message, I want to check if it's truly true with myself. And when with the nonprofit organization, the Arkansas Association of Asian Businesses, it's the first chamber of commerce in Arkansas that focus on Asian community, Asian Arkansas business community. We do it both ways. Arkansas and Asia connect both ways, and that's certainly original too. To be the first and not be courageous enough to not repeat the others. So yeah, so I feel I'm not saying I'm just better than others. I feel through the journey I find that there are original values I can bring to the world, and that's what moves the world forward, maybe just a tiny little bit.
That's awesome. Let's talk about the Arkansas Association of Asian Businesses.
Mm-hmm.
What gave you the idea to start something new? And then how does it help business in Arkansas? What does it do exactly?
Yeah. So what gave me the idea? My
Yeah.
husband. Yes, so I think I need to give credit to my supportive husband, and he has a mind of coming up with great ideas. I'm more of a doer kind. I execute, I carry it out, but he gave me the idea. So what does it do exactly? So you know, Arkansas is in the middle of the U.S. and on the other side of the globe is Asia. That's where I came from. So what the organization does is basically connecting Arkansas with Asia in terms of any kind of business exchange, like when Arkansas entrepreneurs to go try to explore Asian markets, they have a place to come to learn maybe lesson number one or two, like how to open the dialogue in a proper way. When Asian companies or professionals like myself come to Arkansas, how can they build a root here and thrive? So we connect both ways, and also we celebrate the entrepreneurs and business owners and professionals that are from or have the background from Asia that can continue to thrive, succeed in Arkansas.
So how did you get connected to Arkansas originally?
Yeah, so it's from work. My first job out of graduate school was in Arkansas.
And so did you first move to the United States when you went to Texas Tech?
Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
And how was that transition?
How was that transition? So I don't know how many of you have been to China. I tell people I'm from a small town of 3 million people. So in China, yes, really, in China, 3 million people is like medium, small town kind of. So my first, my first land was in New York City. So I thought, cool, that's like China, very dense, high and tall buildings. And Texas, which is, very west in Texas, it's big open field. And then, it was quite a culture shock. So, but through the years, I stayed in Lubbock for 4.5 years. I've made very special friends. They tend to be people much older than me, and maybe my parents' age. So they've coached me a lot and have saw a lot of my growth during that very critical time of actually maturing in this culture. So when I came to the U.S., I was 23, 24, just enough to be independent in going about buying grocery, that kind of thing, but not independent in the mind, so to speak. So those friends who were older than me really coached me a lot. So and now I think about Lubbock, Texas. I really have warm feelings, and I feel that's like my U.S. hometown.
Great. And so do you see yourself being in Arkansas for a long time? Because your art is very Arkansas centric, it seems.
Yes. Again, I when the vanity side got me, I want to not be Arkansas, but want to be to the coast and all of that. But I feel I'm very fortunate to be in Arkansas. I've gotten a lot of great opportunities, and through the organization I created, I just want to share my gratitude towards Arkansas by creating a platform and opportunity for my fellow Arkansans, um, so in a very niche way. So no, I don't have any plans to go leave Arkansas, and I feel yeah, I'm very grateful for Arkansas, and thank you for having me on this show. This is one of the ways I do feel I'm very I would say celebrated more than others. We're all celebrated, but giving me the spotlight to say my voice. So thank you.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about key leadership lessons that you have learned throughout your life. Certainly being well-rounded and original is part of your story. Being finding and then using your voice is part of your story. But can you share with us, just from your, transition through your different career paths and living in different countries and states, what are some big lessons that you have learned, either positively or negatively, as it comes to leadership?
Um, yeah. So since I've been on this. Okay, first of all, if we define leadership, what it is, right? So I'm maybe a leadership of my daughter who's 2 year old. I need to lead her. Maybe I'm a leadership in. So I had to really think about what leadership means, and then I feel a kind of a narrow way, but a very impactful way is leadership in a management kind of setup. So through my work, I've been observing managers. Just because I'm leading a nonprofit organization, I need to learn leadership in a professional world. Um, so I feel one thing I keep reminding myself is to have self-awareness, is to reflect, do self-reflection, because I don't feel it's very constructive when leaders put their value on the subordinates or people that they manage. And I feel yeah, it will be good for the leader to think what's the limit on their own thinking, so not to stop the progress that the team could make if you just accept the originals that from their end. So that's one thing, and so that's something I learned not to do, not to be you know not to be self-aware, to be self-aware and not put my thinking limit on others. What I have learned that's good to do is creating um, okay, one is network, myself networking. I talk to different people, and in fact I put time on my calendar each week to network, because by connecting with other people, I'm learning more thoughts and constantly challenging my own thought, and then I can bring those kind of new thoughts to the team, whoever I'm leading, right? Even just say my little daughter, if I bring new, original, playful thoughts to her that may make her, feel more happy. So yeah, so I would say leadership. I would want to introduce people to different things through networking, and so empower them to have more exposure to other people and things.
I love that. You schedule your networking.
Yeah.
So you're very intentional with
Mm-hmm.
connecting with others. So how do you do that, especially over this last year, when networking is like how we're doing it now? Networking is totally shifted to a
Yeah.
virtual space, or certainly reduced. How do you do that during the pandemic, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah. Yeah. So it went like this and this. Okay, if we think a line chart. So maybe the first 5, 6 months, I felt kind of sad that I don't get to go meet people, and all I'm thinking about is, manage my daughter, and who was learning to walk and getting into things a lot, and also doing a full-time job, and all the other things I was doing. So it was very um I was kind of depressed, but then I I just thought, hey, everybody is facing this. If I don't help myself out, don't count on other people to help me out, certainly. So I just made a determination. I just need to make time for it, reach out to people. I set up like Calendarly. If you guys heard about it, just reach out, send a message, and I found that one is people are flattered if you reach out and that you want to network. I certainly felt flattered when you reach out to me and for this engagement. So I feel actually it just takes one person to knock on the door to open the conversation, and I'm willing to be that person. So I network within my company, within Tyson, make a point not to network within my core teams. I reach out to mentors or volunteer for projects. So that's when you get to know people that's outside of your immediate organization, and then you make intentional connections and say, hey, um, can we follow up in a month or two? And mostly people are very open to that because everybody is in this isolation mode, and quality conversation can make many people's life better. So yeah, the more I do it, the more confident I get. It just becomes natural now. And also I have to say, I'm very intentional about learning as well. So I have a LinkedIn learning account. So whenever I want to learn something, I just search. I learn the theory first. I always learn the theory first. So like connecting, like networking, especially it can be very intimidating to network with executives. Okay, so I searched how to network with executives, and then just found really cool lessons. I feel for young professionals, they shouldn't limit themselves to their peers, people that are their age, that are in the similar background education. um, I'm a person that would challenge myself to break out of that, and then I feel um, yeah, I've successfully networked with executives, not in a way that, hey, I want to buddy up with someone high up. I feel I have something to add, a value, and maybe something interesting. I share my art. Hey, look at my art. It's, if you feel it's interesting, that's a icebreaker. That kind of thing. I feel to relate to people at human level. And then mutually add value, and of course it takes strategy and thinking, but yeah, I think just be intentional, take the initiative, and be open to learning. All of that will help us succeed. And I feel the pandemic really helped us to network, because there's no traveling required. So that I don't need to be limited to people in my surroundings and look at if it's lunch break and I have to travel time. None of that exists, so it's very, very easy once you break through that.
I like your a theme that I'm hearing is that you are very people focused, and you're have people centered design both in your work, and then as you connect with others and network and live your life, you're very people focused, which is awesome, very awesome. And so you had mentioned, you never know sort of what opportunity will arise. You might meet someone who would be interested to see your art, and you can share your art with them. I feel like I saw your art the other day in it was like in a report, or it was in like a booklet for entrepreneurship. Was it with Revolution?
The rise of something, yeah.
Yes, it was with the rise of the rest.
Yes, the rise of the rest.
Can you tell us about, because that's a pretty.
I didn't submit it. I just have.
You just happened to see that it was there?
Sorry. Yeah, I didn't submit it. It just people sent me message, hey, your art was featured in there, so it was cool. So again, that's one just opportunities one leads to another. I was commissioned for this art, and the people or organization commissioned me happen to have a lot of contacts, and they may have submitted it, and it just networking can bring you all that kind of things.
That is awesome. And I think I also saw you have your art in Top Shot Golf. Top Golf. Top. I'm not a golfer. What's it called?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not Top Golf. It's one of the local, golf courses commissioned me. Again, that was one thing leads to another. I made a networking effort with one of the people that was supposed to be intimidating to network with, but we chatted through my networking effort, not about the art, but they got interested enough to introduce me to a golf course, and then it's just one thing leads to another.
That is awesome. You're really, I think it's Jim Collins who talks about the flywheel. And once you put that work in, you get the return and it comes faster and faster and faster. And
Yeah.
so
I have to say though, if I were to give an advice on tangible advice, I would say think about how to market yourself. You have to, I don't know, not many people are artistic. That's certainly not the only way to market yourself. But if you have something to showcase yourself, then it's much easier for people to follow up with you on concrete projects. So is it a personal website or a way you gave a speech somewhere? So then if you think about giving a speech, then you need to have the opportunity. Then how to get the opportunity? You need to get noticed, and then you need to have a voice. A voice usually get a notice. So I'm just saying, art is maybe my thing, my material or content for people to follow up with me. But I think all of you guys, maybe you have that, and I would certainly want to hear that. But having some kind of online presence will help people to be reminded of you, what you can do, and then that's a channel of you putting out your original work. So
And so, what would you say to a young professional who perhaps haven't found that talent or skill yet? They might have some things that they are interested in, but certainly nothing that they can pinpoint yet that, this is the identity that I want to present to the world. How would you help someone sort of discover their path?
Yeah. I think that's certainly the best time to have that kind of reflection, right? Before you put the wrong foot out, think about what are you gonna do. I feel, I'm very, very inspired by many YouTubers. I find on YouTube, many talented people may not be in a very structured way. They share their creativity on YouTube. They make videos on all kinds of educational things. So I feel don't I wouldn't limit myself in a very structured professional kind of box. Find an outlet and do it. But at the same time, acknowledge that the world is gonna be hard. Everything you have an idea for, you have to produce the work. It doesn't mean you put a YouTube video on YouTube. I mean, certainly thousands and millions of people will start following. It has to be quality work. So I feel yeah, I would definitely test out the idea, whatever our passion is or are, find an outlet, just go do it. But no, it takes grit to really deliver and constantly, um, you know, quality work, challenge yourself, and then um, yeah, and it can be not more than one, it can be several things. So but you just have to have quality work to back that up.
I love that. Have an idea, but you must be able to produce the work. I've had millions of ideas, and I learned a long time ago, probably not a good idea to share it until something is produced, something comes of it. Otherwise, you can
Yeah.
lose that credibility or
Yeah,
trust.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, credibility is so important. Like like I just mentioned earlier, having an online presence and constantly market yourself and build that credibility over time. It's for people to follow up with you. So that's just long-term work, right?
And so you used the word grit a moment ago. You need to have grit to get through the challenges. Can
Mm-hmm.
you share a time with us where you really had to dig deep and reach
Hmm.
down and get that grit to push through? How did you
Yeah,
motivate yourself to overcome the challenge, big challenge when it did arise?
yeah. It's a very good question. So like this Arkansas Association of Asian Businesses, it's such a niche um organization, and I, I think anybody has this kind of moment of loneliness, no matter how popular your thing is. There's this moment of loneliness that you just feel you don't have a lot of momentum, that's visible momentum going on. Um, so I'm not naturally I'm not a quitter. So I acknowledge it's hard. It's especially when COVID just hit, and then all of our programming stopped, and then people are just on their own things, and nobody. I felt like I was the only one still thinking about the organization, add value, all of that. So I felt very, very lonely. So I had to, one is ask for help. I talked to my board members, and like Katie on this call, and she's our wonderful board member. I just have to reach out, and sometimes it takes me to ask for help to get that encouragement going, because people may not know that you need some kind of encouragement. Secondly is I need to think about if this is a true calling for me, there must be something driving me. So I would think back on, hey, why I started this organization. um, one of the things is like there are some grocery store Asian grocery store owners that they don't speak any English, and they're operating in Arkansas, and they're very successful, but they just have so um, limited access to resources because of their language obstacles, like you know you just imagine someone doesn't speak English and operate in a English speaking world. So those are the kind of people I want to be their voice. I want to champion them. I want to be that connector for them. So if they still exist in Arkansas, I feel I still have a meaning to exist too. So um, that so yeah, when I um, feel down, I feel, why am I doing this? If the problem, not the problem, but if the drive, the reason is still here, there's still a reason for me to be here.
I think that's so interesting to ask, is this a true calling? And if you keep finding yourself going back to the same issue, you're right.
Yeah, on the flip side, I'm very selective of what I'm involved in. If it's not a true calling, I won't have that grit. I will. It's hard. It would be hard for anyone, right? If and that's why. So yeah. Thank you for calling that out. If it's not a true calling, I wouldn't. Just being a little wiser than 5 years ago, I wouldn't even start, because that ruins my credibility, right? It seems like you can't carry through. So I just need to be very selective and asking myself.
I think that's awesome. I do have a couple more questions for you, but I wanted to be sure to make a point that anyone can ask questions. And so if you either here on the Zoom call with us or on Facebook have a question, please feel free to put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand, or you can just unmute and talk if you want to be brave. That's like a big step right there. But we would welcome any questions that you have for Dr. Luo-Branch. And so while you guys are thinking about that, I would like to go back. I loved what you said earlier about always being interested in what's hot and like wanting to know like what's cool. And you are in IT because like data is cool. And so what else is cool?
Yeah, what else is cool? Yeah, I used to, want to use big words, whatever that is, and I like artificial intelligence and all of that. Maybe 3 or 4 years ago, but now I just feel human is cool. Being human is cool. Being real and being true. At least I feel cool in my own world. And then I feel, yeah, I'm a much more critical thinker now, on what kind of trend to be getting on and all of that. So
I love that. So authenticity is cool.
Yeah. I agree.
I completely agree. It looks like we do have someone's hand raised. It says Uncle Pookie.
I'm sorry, that's my children playing a joke on me. Hi, Young, this is Tom Roberts. How are you?
Oh, hi, Tom. Yes, good to see you again.
So in our conversations, I was really intrigued by kind of the courage, you bring up grit, that it takes to start something fresh. So I can't imagine starting something fresh in my own country, but as you know, I lived in Asia for 11 years. I cannot imagine starting something fresh in Asia at all. So can you tell us about like the first couple of days or the first couple of weeks? I mean, what did it feel like when you have this kind of vision, but you don't know where to start or how to start, or maybe you did. What was it like the first couple of weeks?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I have two forces. I had two forces pulling me. One is I was learning about individualism of this culture, which I'm so grateful for. That's something I learned in the US. It's okay to be individualistic and think for yourself. So that's the force that was driving me forward. And what was pulling me back was I was full-time employed. I had a full-time employer, and then and also I was very deeply involved in the Chinese community in Arkansas. So to me, in my mind, I was challenging the authority, doing my own thing, and that was very taboo in an Asian culture. Tom, as you know, it's everything is about hierarchy, your rank, your age, and you're a female, all of that. You're absolutely challenging the social structure. I'm glad I have a very supportive spouse, and he gave me the courage to stick with my individualistic side and then just break through. And then I was, how I felt in those days, I felt scared, but felt thrill. There was a thrill, right? When there's drama, there's thrill. So I certainly felt that kind of, turmoil in me. But it was good exercise to exercise that kind of muscle.
Thanks a lot for that. I really admire what you've accomplished here, and honestly, very happy to connect. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I understand why it will be hard for you to do that in Asia, right? Because Asian culture is such a collectivism culture. So it would be much more harsh in that environment if you want to stand out. Um, so I would say I give credit to American culture that it celebrates individualism. So that gives me the power and courage to it's not as taboo as in the Asian culture.
Yeah. Well, a lot of times in the American culture, sometimes especially in business, the loudest guy wins, right?
Yeah.
And many times in Asian culture, what I had to learn the very hard way is that the loudest guy in the room is typically kind of the village idiot. And it was hard for me. That was a hard lesson for me to learn, over time. But I really appreciate what you're doing and admire what you're doing. So thanks a lot for sharing everything.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, speaking of that, I felt the reason I challenged myself to get a public, have the skills for public speaking is to get that kind of power. So without this public speaking as a tool, it's hard to express yourself in this culture. So if I was in another culture, maybe I'll use some other kind of way. But this is really doing public speaking, like Tom said, the loudest person wins. At least I need to be heard, not to be loudest, but I need to be heard.
So speaking of public speaking, which led to your TED Talk opportunity and all of the learnings that you did to get to that point, we have a great question here from Amy. She says, you mentioned that you juggle all the different responsibilities you have by taking it one day at a time or 1 hour at a time. But how do you stay organized and not miss any of the important things?
I say, I put things in perspective. If you think I'm juggling a lot, think about the president of the U.S. I know it's so, it's not even, yeah. So I'm just saying, for me to not feel overwhelmed, I have to think how other people juggling much more complicated life than me. So it's just putting things in perspective. They're single moms, maybe having 4 kids and 3 jobs, that she has the pressure to earn a living and childcare for all of those. And especially in the COVID time, I mean, I can't imagine people that have to, put food on the table in much challenging circumstances. So I feel it's just putting things in perspective. And also I think there are people under challenged. I feel I'm just doing, what I can do. And I feel if you're living too a comfortable life, everything is so predictable, you may be under challenged in terms of time management. And I feel it gets better over time. When the first thing I started doing was art. So full-time job, art. I wasn't married, I didn't have a child. So that's one thing I add to it. And then the next thing was getting married. And then just one thing adds to another. I feel I'm the one seeking out more challenges, and that makes me get better, stronger in time management.
Great. So I want to now shift to the future. As we are wrapping up our conversation, what do you see is the future of Y Illustrations? What is the future for the AAAB? And then what does the future hold for Dr. Luo-Branch?
Yeah. Let's start with the last question. That's what I think about every day. So I was trained as an architect, and then I practiced as a city planner, and now I'm an IT professional. So it's been, zigzag and different directions, and I feel there are still many other possibilities in my life. So I'm not thinking that, hey, this is the path I'm going to stay on. I feel I constantly negotiate with life, with time. Let me do more, whatever true calling it is for me. And I want to do it in a very strategic way. So when I work in my full-time job, I do want to advance my career there. When I do art, I want to, be more creative. And in fact, I just signed have a online, art class one-on-one with an artist in the Great Britain, someone I really admired for years. So I want to get better at art. I want to get better at different things. So what's the future hold? I feel I want to still do the right thing, do the true calling, whatever that is. And still have things on my bucket list, like I want to maybe get into media. I want to travel more. So I do want to negotiate with life to make those things happen. Um, and then what's the vision for the AAAB? I feel I'm very fortunate to be working with a board of directors. So this is not Young's organization. This is Arkansas's organization. So I feel what I do is I remind the board why we're here, why we need to do meaningful things rather than just check the box. There's no box to check. Whatever we do is because we feel it's meaningful to do. So other than that, I don't, we decide things together in terms of vision. And then if there's one day Arkansas doesn't feel there's a need for the AAB to exist, there's no hard feelings, and then we can just, find a more constructive way to help out the community. So what's the vision for my art? So the again, art to me personally is my expression of creativity, and with the public engagement is celebrating hand done things. I feel many things are overly digitalized. I feel there's great value, great beauty in handmade things, and I want to engage people in that way. I want to celebrate the uniqueness of each individual, their stories. So specifically, I do art talking about I call it art of place. So everybody has a story with a place, like maybe their old childhood house or the school they graduated from, or Arkansas or Northwest Arkansas. So I want to listen to their story, how they connect with their place. So that ties back into my architect background. I just want to help people celebrate that kind of story.
So if people want to schedule time on their calendar to network with you, how could they get a hold of you or learn more about some of your initiatives?
Yeah. Again, I find people feel flattered when other people knock on their door. So please do knock on my door. So I'm on LinkedIn. So for any kind of first round of introduction, I feel LinkedIn may be the best. And then it's email. So you can take my email address. It's info at yillustrations.com. It's letter Y and then the word illustrations.com. So we can connect through art, and then we can go from there.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Luo-Branch, for being here today. And I know we only heard like snippets of all of the multi-dimensions that you have in your life, but just thank you so much for sharing them with us. And thank you for everything you're doing to promote Asian businesses in Arkansas, business in Arkansas, and certainly human-centered design.
Yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us for Game Changers. And I hope you all have a good evening.